Hey, Ray, do you believe in God?
Never met him.
Yeah, well, I do. And I love Jesus' style, you know.
This roof cap is made of a magnesium tungsten alloy.
What are you so involved with it?
These are the blueprints for the structural ironwork in Dana Barrett's apartment building, and they're very, very strange.
Hey, Ray, do you remember something in the Bible about the last days when the dead would rise from the grave?
I remember Revelation 7:12. And I looked as he opened the sixth seal, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became as black as sackcloth, and the moon became as blood.
And the seas boiled, and the skies fell.
Judgment Day.
Judgment Day.
Every ancient religion has its own myth about the end of the world.
Myth? Ray, has it ever occurred to you that maybe the reason we've been so busy lately is because the dead have been rising from the grave?
How about a little music?
You're going to finally admit there were ghosts in the house? And he's like, oh, yeah, those are my cousins. You know, they built the house. I bought it from them.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimerica show. We're going to be chatting with Sonia Brosz a little bit later about exorcism and all that fun stuff. But first, as always, Traveling Graham. How's it going, buddy?
Hey, good, buddy. Traveling Graham, thanks. I like that. I'm a traveler. Yeah, I've traveled all my life. I've been fortunate enough.
I was more alluding to the fact that you just got back from a little vacation.
Oh, right.
Well deserved.
Yeah, thanks, man. Yeah, it was fun. Almost bumped into Adam Curry there.
I was here putting out podcast episodes.
Oh, were you? That's good. I was listening to
You almost met Adam Curry there?
I almost bumped into him. No, I tried.
Almost?
Yeah, I tried to get into that show, that Broadcasters
New Media
Convention.
Expo?
Well, the New Media Expo, which is a part of that, but it was like $600 to walk around and check it out. So,
Jesus.
yeah. We don't have that many donations to really.
No.
to get
That would
me
be the
into
whole
that.
year's budget.
Yeah.
We already blew this year's budget on the mixer.
So anyways, that was crazy.
I did actually want to touch on that because there was that fucking echo in the James Swagger interview where we got that Skype feedback, and that was a constant problem. Now, with the new setup, we should have zero of that. So that was the last time you have to listen to Graham say, wow, wow, wow.
Yeah, it's hard for me to keep quiet the whole interview.
I remember how pissed off you were.
Do you?
Yeah.
That about the
You
echo?
were all mad. I was like, it's this, and now you're like, bullshit.
Yeah. So I do have a grant about Vegas, if not really for now, but about technology and stuff like that.
We officially need a grant jingle.
Yeah.
Okay.
If somebody
Right
wants
on.
to like take a sample and speed it up or something like that, maybe, and turn it into a grant
That would
jingle.
be pretty funny, actually.
This is Graham.
Take his
ranting.
last grant and just like cut that up into like 6 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. The pitch is almost there. Best I can do. You're gonna fucking do your grant?
Oh, I don't really want to hear it. No, it's just, did I talk to you about it already?
No.
So I'm in Vegas staying at the Luxor after staying at the Cosmo, actually where Adam Curry stayed too. That's why I almost.
You didn't get from the drum roll that I wanted to hear?
I don't know what you're doing over there. Anyways, I was trying to take out cash. So get this, the bank machine doesn't work for my Royal Bank. So I go up to the cashier in the casino and I ask him. He says it's the bank. He says it's my bank. They're not doing it. So I have to get on the phone with my bank, which is a pain in the ass because my cell phone actually is not working properly down there either. So I paid for all the travel plans to get down there and be able to text and call. And I couldn't even call the cell phone provider numbers, the 1-877 numbers, to change my plan or anything. It was super frustrating. It's the worst trip down in the States for texting. Texts weren't working. having all kinds of weird issues with texts and emails, and Wi-Fi wasn't strong enough to do fuck all. Like, why even have Wi-Fi if you can't send a text on it? Like, iMessages weren't even working from iPhone to iPhone. So that was super frustrating. So I try to get money out, call my bank. The bank says, no, there's no restriction on your funds. It's the machine. I go back, try the machine. I had to get money from the cashier in 2015 in a casino and paid $33. Actually, it was $33 fee.
33?
Yeah, to get it out. Now, in 1990, I was traveling around Bari, Italy, and I was out of cash completely. And I threw my Visa into a fucking weird bank machine in the middle of the street. Like, everything was closed down. The whole city's like shut down. They close it like Wednesday afternoon or something like that. And I throw my Visa in there. I use my bank card PIN just on a prayer that it's going to work. And I get cash out in 1990. And in 2015, I can't get cash out of a casino.
I remember those fucking days when you could just pop your Visa into any old bank machine and pull out cash.
Well, you should still be able to do that now.
Yeah, you'd think so.
So, you have to walk to the Mandalay Bay to get it out of their machine.
But I don't know. I've never fucked around with my bank card in other countries. Actually, once I took out money off my Scotia card in a Mexican bank because I ran out of cash.
Yeah. And it worked, right?
And it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's supposed to work. Like, why would it not work? So anyways, I'm going to take that into the
But
Royal
then
Bank.
it stole my card.
No. Really?
Yeah.
There's a little Mexican guy in the back there behind it. Not giving your card
But
back.
I got my cash. I remember I pulled out like fucking $100. And then, it wouldn't give me my card back. So then I ended up having to fucking call and go back to the hotel room because I didn't have, this was back before having cell phones. Or if you did, I might have had a cell phone, but you sure as fuck didn't use it in Mexico.
Why?
Because that was back when it probably would have cost you a fucking.
If
it even worked, it would have cost you an arm and a leg. Like, I don't even think I brought my cell phone with me.
Yeah.
And then, so I had to go back to my hotel room and call and cancel my bank card.
Wow.
So then I was really stranded. So I was like, if you're really watching your money because you have zero access to anything else.
When I was in Mexico,
I didn't have a credit card. So.
We had money hidden up in the rafters of the hotel room. Like, you'd hide them in the ceiling. I had to run up there because I got fined by the federales in the middle of the night. I had to run up there to the room and actually go in and get money out of the rafters to pay off the federales.
All it fined?
What do you call it?
Fucking, what's the word? When you fucking
get caught having sex on the beach?
No, when you have to pay someone off. You get extorted. You got extorted.
Well, I specifically said, can I pay a fine? Like, I made it clear.
Yeah,
I need to pay a fine.
You're bribing.
Because otherwise, what's going to happen to me and her.
You were hinting at them that you wanted to pay them off.
Right. By using the word fine. Anyways, it worked. It was $50 Canadian.
Yeah, that's what my cab driver told me in Mexico. The first time I went to Mexico. He's like, there's nothing you can really get into here that $200 won't get you out of.
Really?
Yeah.
So back then, it's
like,
$50.
Just have $200 on you.
Wow.
That
was
that
crazy.
would have been back around. That was early 2000s, I'd say.
We were in the back seat of like a pickup with a bunch of federales with machine guns. Yeah, it was kind of hairy. She took it really good though. No, she did. So I want to give a quick shout out to the guys at FloatLife in Calgary here because
did you go there?
I went there and they've got a great setup, like super professional. They got 5 float tanks, a couple different sizes in their own little rooms with their showers. Total sensory deprivation, no sound, no light.
You do sound if you want.
Yeah, they've got the speakers in there. Yeah, you could do sound actually. I don't know if there's a way to hook up your own music or not. I didn't really explore that because they said not many people go for sound, but it would be cool to do a Monroe Institute meditation in there.
Yeah, I think it would help me.
Yeah, it'd help you stop playing around in the water.
Yes, exactly.
Anyways, they've got the couple great guys. They started up this business, doing really well so far. I grabbed a bunch of business cards to hand them out. Yeah, they listen to the show. We're going to have them in the studio pretty soon. Maybe for an intro, maybe for a full episode. I'm not sure. But I'm going to link.
In this room?
Yeah, man.
This room we're in?
That's right. We're going to have another local guy in here, too. We can squeeze another one in here. And then I'm going to link to the
How much
show
was it?
notes. I can't remember the price that they're charging. I think you can buy like 10 floats at a time and stuff like that. There's
Well,
deals.
we do have a lot of local listeners. It would be good
Yeah. I met some local
tell them how
listeners
much
at the conference on the weekend.
I was there
Give a shout out to those guys. Yeah, you were there for part of it.
briefly. I had a busy day.
Anyways, check out the float. It's a great way to meditate.
My uncle was amazed that he's like, I couldn't believe you could just keep talking like that.
But who could?
Richard Dolan.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
He just kept going.
You guys
And
missed Steve Bassett.
without stumbling or anything. Like,
You guys missed Steve Bassett. He went on for like way longer than that.
did he?
Yeah.
How long was Dolan? An hour 45?
No, an hour and 15, I think. An hour and a half. So Darren and I are talking about Disclosure Canada. We were there on the weekend on
No, it
Saturday.
was longer than that.
No, I don't think Dolan was much more than maybe an hour and a half max.
I still don't know if I got a parking ticket.
Yeah, hopefully not. You missed out, man. I honestly, Steve. So we saw Grant Cameron, Paul Hellier, and Richard Dolan, all who we've had on the show already. So I mean, seeing those guys in person again, they're all super friendly and open, and they've got lots of new research and lots of good old research too. Lots of government documents. They talked about secrecy and geopolitics and all kinds of UFO stuff. But Darren, you missed Steve Bassett, and I'll tell you, he surprised me. I mean, I've heard him speak quite a bit and do his little disclosure spiel. Like, we know how people in the UFO community think about disclosure too. There's a bit of a divide there, right? But he did a really good presentation. I mean, he got a little fear-based at the end with basically nuclear, like, the choice between disclosure and nuclear war kind of thing, like the countdown clocks of each of them. But he put some strings together.
So disclosure stops nuclear war?
Yeah, like if disclosure happened, and a lot of people say it will never happen, but if it did, it would change things quite a bit, right? It would change this paradigm. It would shift us out of a possible nuclear war, he's saying. So, I mean, whereas
I could maybe get on board with that. What about the possibility that there's nothing to disclose? Well,
there's enough documents and there's enough going on that I think there is enough to disclose, personally. So, but he put some things together about the Rockefeller Initiative, and this is interesting because there is some mainstream media linking to the Rockefeller Initiative, and that was an initiative from 1993 to 1996, and Grant Cameron did a FOIA request, and it took him quite a while, a few trips, I think, and he says here on this is Paradigm Research Group's website. So the mainstream media is starting to pay attention to this, and get this. So you remember that John Podesta tweet that came out about
who's John Podesta?
Who's
John Podesta?
He's one of the highest government guys, like advisor to the current president and a bunch of stuff. He's like in the inner circles. And he's been there for a while. Yeah, he tweeted that his regret from 2014 wasn't pushing the disclosure of UFOs. And then there was also the president on the Jimmy Kimmel show. Anyways, so there's mainstream people are starting to.
What was Buddy's name?
John Podesta.
Okay, keep going.
So there's documents on this website here, Paradigm Research Group, documents obtained from the Office of Science and Technology Policy and the Clinton Presidential Library via the Freedom of Information Act, confirming and contemporary with a highly important and little publicized effort by Lawrence Rockefeller to convince President Bill Clinton to release all government-held documents related to the UFO phenomena, end the truth embargo, and effectively be the disclosure president. So some of the principles are Hillary Clinton, obviously President Bill Clinton back then, Dr. John Gibbons, advisor John Podesta, and Webster Hubbell. But also in there are Bill Richardson, Leon Panetta, and Al Gore. Those are what he calls the Watchers. So I'm going to link to this in the show notes because it's pretty fascinating how these players from the mid-90s are actually quite active right now in government, right? Hillary's now running. Podesta's still in there. Bill Richardson's still an active player. So he was talking about some limited hangouts. Darren, I don't know if you know the term of limited hangout, but basically the timing of Bill Clinton and Obama going on the Jimmy Kimmel show is very interesting, and it's kind of hard to ignore the coincidence of the planned release of information from Paradigm Research Group and the timing of those guys going on Jimmy Kimmel show, actually doing, I don't know how you describe it, doing a limited hangout. Basically like insurance on, if something happened. So anyways, fascinating stuff. It was a really good presentation. It was a great day. All about, oh man, I don't know, everything. We got into everything. There was some stuff on chemtrails. Actually, there's a
I'm following John Podesta on Twitter.
There's a chemtrail. What do you call it when people protest? There's a chemtrail protest in Calgary this weekend.
Protest?
A protest. Are we going in Grimerica?
The chemtrail protest?
Yeah, hand out business cards and stuff.
Seems like more of a Grahams thing.
Wear your shirt.
My what shirt?
You've been thinking about chemtrails lately. Wear your Grimerica shirt.
I've been thinking about chemtrails, not protesting them. I don't think I'm there yet.
I'm not saying you have to participate. Wouldn't you just go check it out?
On anything. I don't think I'm going to start on. Actually, that's not true. One time I protested.
Did you do a school walkout or something
like
that?
I did, yeah. I protested. I think it was they were cutting out something. They were cutting out like lunch sports or something like that. Or it was like intramural sports.
Really?
I didn't even play intramural sports. I was like, yeah, fuck that. We should all walk out. At first, there was like 20 of us running around from door to door. Took a while. But for a while there.
What do you mean door to door?
Of all the classrooms. Yelling, we're walking out.
Really? It was just 20 of you that started saying, and then people get up out of their class and follow you?
At first, there was only a couple. And then it took a while. Like, there was a cops there for like a little bit where we weren't sure if we were going to get enough people or if we were just going to look like fucking idiots.
See, we planned it better in 1985 where people just wouldn't go back to class after lunch and they'd start walking down the street. Like, everybody would just say, fuck it, we're doing a walkout. Nobody will go back to class.
Yeah, we had to do door to door. And then we stayed out for a couple of days. We made signs. We were up on the road. I got interviewed in the paper. I still have the paper clipping someplace.
The guy who doesn't even play intramurals and he's out there.
Oh, yeah, I got an interview in the paper, the local paper. Good times, man.
GTs. All right, so what do you want, man? Do you want some synchronicities or some feedback or a UFO quote? You're gonna jingle me to notify? Synchronicity, it's time. All right, so I've got one here from Timothy P. He says, hi, Darren and Graham. I just wanted to check in from Los Angeles. I really dig the show and I've been telling friends about it. I only discovered it a couple months ago and have been firing through a good chunk of them. So before I continue, I just wanted to say too, tell your friends about the show because really that's one of the only ways that we have to market this thing. We don't really, have a overarching marketing plan. It's just social media and telling friends, right? There's no
advertising. I've been getting a lot of people telling me about telling people.
Yeah.
And people tweeting in that they're spreading. That's like the formula. We took that from No Agenda.
Yeah.
That's our formula for marketing. Tell your friends.
Because I think the goal is really, we know people are going to drop off and people are going to check us out and leave, but the goal is to keep growing and keep getting more listeners than you have that sort of trail off. So keep telling your friends. Anyways, he says, I really love your synchronicity segment and I've got a couple of ridiculous synchros to share. In 2012, I drove from LA to Boston to be with my ill mother. I was told to listen to audiobooks while on the road, but decided podcasts and radio were better for me. However, I did have one audiobook that I got for free. It was Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn. I had tossed a loose CD in the glove compartment at the beginning of the trip and hadn't pulled it out for a few days. I was driving about 600 miles a day, and one of the nights I was sitting in a hotel and planning my next day's trip. Based on my estimate, it looked like I'd end up in Binghamton or Elmira, New York, for the next night. That next day, I was listening to an episode of Coast to Coast, and the first guest mentioned that he used to do seminars in Elmira, New York. Keep in mind, this is a pretty small town of less than like 30,000 people. The second guest on Coast to Coast mentioned that he had seen the first guest at a seminar in Elmira because he was actually from Elmira, New York. Very strange. At that time, the sky had been dark and rainy all day, and it opened up and produced a rainbow that stretched from one side of the highway to the other. I drove right through it.
Is that a picture?
That's
an
a
actual
picture
picture?
Yeah, of the actual rainbow.
Let me see that. Thought it was impossible to photograph a rainbow.
No, I've got a whole folder with rainbows in my computer.
You would.
I do.
I fucking am not.
I saw an insane one in Vancouver. It was.
They're calling you Rainbow Bright. Oh, that's a good picture.
He said,
let me guess, what's that? The entrance to Elmira?
Well, just wait. I drove right under it. The photos attached. When I finally got to Elmira, the CD in my glove box began to rattle as I realized that Elmira is referred to as Mark Twain country. He lived, was married, and is buried there. I even stayed at the Mark Twain Motor Inn. Fuck, that's a good synchro.
What's Mark Twain got to do with it?
Oh, Jesus. Were you paying attention?
Yes.
He put a Mark Twain audiobook in his glove before he left. And then he heard those 2 coast-to-coast interviews about the town that he was just about to enter into. And then his CD started rattling in the glove.
Did he move to Elmira?
He says, my question is, how far do you take it? Should I have went to his grave to see if there was a message for me? I don't know. The second one, not so positive. He's not as positive. This classifies as a synchro. His mom died of cancer about 6 months later, and there was family and witnesses around at the time she was crossing. We were surrounding her bed, and the television was on. Earlier, there had been some easy music playing lightly. The TV was muted now, but it still showed which songs were playing. I kept track of them because I realized how strange it was. I couldn't make this shit up if I tried. Out of about 8 songs, these were 6 of them. I Feel Free. That was played by Cream as she exhaled her last breath. Living Thing by ELO. Jesus Is All Right With Me, the Doobie Brothers. Free Bird, Leonard Skinner. 50 Ways to Say Goodbye, Train. And Mama We's All Crazy Now, the Runaways.
Oh.
This is a pretty fucking weird place. I published a book of real synchros and what happens if you follow it. Here's the link. Thanks for your hard work and entertainment.
Okay, the first one. Elmira. I'll give that one an 8 point.
Nice. Go to the
4. And the second one, I'm not going to rate because I think that's not my place. I will say maybe he somehow had control over what was playing on the radio. You know how sometimes you like pick a song almost, it seems like.
Yeah, we don't know enough information if it was like shuffling like a whole bunch of CDs or if it was just.
No, didn't he say? No, he said the radio.
Yeah, but well, how did he? Oh, he was keeping track of the songs as they were coming, maybe. Yeah. Well, haven't you heard about the deceased like controlling the radio? Or
I think maybe you can, to some extent, control the radio.
Really?
Sometimes I used to have a song come on I was hoping to hear.
Really? Yeah. Intentions.
Maybe. It'd be a good one if I were to rate it, but I don't want to rate ones where people die.
That's fair enough. I've got a couple more feedback here.
Profound UFO quote of the week.
And Darren wants to hear the UFO quote of the week instead, so thanks for switching gears on me.
Switching.
This kind of goes in with our disclosure.
Just little snide remarks are going to make me stop doing it.
It is my thesis that flying saucers are real and that they are spaceships from another solar system. There is no doubt in my mind that these objects are interplanetary craft of some sort. I and my colleagues are confident that they do not originate in our solar system. And that's from Dr. Herman Oberth, the father of modern rocketry.
I thought that was
I know who you're going to say. The other guy.
Werner
Ron
von Braun.
Yeah.
No?
No, maybe he's the father of ancient rocketry.
Maybe rocketry has two fathers.
Wasn't Von Braun the one that had that quote from the remember we were talking about it at the show, right? Or where were we talking about it? About what's that? The old textbook, the Bhagavad Gita. I have become destroyer of worlds, or whatever. Wasn't it Von Braun that said that? It was in the
No, that
Godzilla
was
movie.
Oppenheimer.
Oh, it was Oppenheimer. Right. Oh yeah, sorry. That's it. So I got another one here quickly for you. It's
another one.
Short
the
one.
Fucking
That's
jingle.
okay. I'm completely convinced that UFOs have an out-of-world basis. That's Dr. Walther Riedel, once chief designer and research director at the German Rocket Center in Peenemünde.
You could have signaled me or something. I could have kept the jingle going.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, but I thought.
You pulled one on me. Not as funny. Here's one we haven't heard in a while.
You don't say ham, you say spam.
And this is from Riley R. He says, hey guys, no, he didn't say that. He said, hey, just started binge listening to the show and I love it. On episode 110 at about 39, you're talking about the National Geographic article about people's beliefs around science. As I'm sure you know, there are some scientists such as Rupert Sheldrake, Jim Tucker, and Dean Radin that have documented unusual phenomena and are dismissed out of hand due to the subject of their research. It's weird to me that NDE's ghost experiences and spiritual/psychedelic experiences aren't studied more, given how far back in history we have accounts from. Found your show through Alex Sakaris and Skeptical. I live in Calgary and listen to your show while driving. I'm a comic book illustrator. If you have ever need help from a comic book artist for some reason, let me know. I'd love it if you could get Jim Tucker, Dean Radin, and Bernardo Kastrup on the show. Yeah, thanks for the feedback, Riley. I got some good feedback on the grant on that one.
Did you?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
It was a fucking editing nightmare.
Yeah, I can imagine. Lots of listeners from Calgary these days. We met a couple at the conference. That was great. A little one-day conference.
Yeah, well, maybe it seems like we're starting to get a lot of artists.
Yeah, art seems to be coming.
Yeah. Wonder if we'll ever have enough that we can start doing episode art.
Oh, maybe.
Right? It'd be easier with our format, too, because you can kind of look at backstage to see who's coming
and pre-do it.
Instead of me just ripping off Google Images and put this Grimerica stamp on it.
Yeah. You're doing a good job, though.
Actually, my wife made that. Thanks, baby. She doesn't listen.
I got
You won't hear that.
I got another one from Landel D. This is kind of funny, actually.
Landel?
Yeah.
Landel the Mandel?
Yeah. He says his subject line is "Get Grant Cameron back." So, and I did talk to Grant about coming back on.
Oh no, this is gonna get confusing. Grant.
Grant.
Are you gonna have a Grant?
No. So he says, just want to take a minute and let you guys know how much I enjoy the show. I started listening about a year ago and I've been hooked. I'm originally from Alberta, Vermilion, so it was nice to find a podcast where the accents are familiar. Darren reminds me of my cousin so much, it's really not funny. The somewhat belligerent tone and automatic skepticism makes me laugh, as it is exactly what my cousin will do. Although sometimes you wish you could smack him, haha. I'm sure you are no stranger to that feeling. You must be talking to me.
Whoa. We don't promote violence.
I've never been a huge believer in the occult and UFO phenomena, etc., but I've always been curious. I think seeing the X-Files too much when I was young ignited a dark curiosity in me for all things strange and unexplainable. Even if some of this shit isn't real, it's fun to wonder. The lunar wave thing is an interesting one. Made me rethink my whole idea of the universe. Not that I think everything is a hologram now, but it's like somebody handing you a pair of glasses and saying, here, look through these. And then like a little acid trip, you look through and everything is different and just a little bit fucked. And then when you take the glasses off, the things that seem so solid and reasonable before you put the glasses on seem just a little bit fucked as well. I like that part of it. Well, probably never know the truth about all these things, but it is fun to speculate. It's funny. That's what Victor Vigiani said at the conference. He's like, when you leave this place, you're going to be a different person. You're going to have a different point of view, and you're going to be thinking differently. And yeah.
Were you?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Anyway, I was listening to the THC episode with Paul Hellyer yesterday, and he mentioned Grant Cameron. And I was immediately transported back to the day I listened to your podcast with him. Quite a while after you released it, it was only last December that I downloaded it, and only because I think you mentioned it on a more current one. Glad I did, though. In any case, the reason for my email is to politely request that you bust your ass to get Grant Cameron back. Another 3 hours would be nice, haha. And just in case you think I'm an ungrateful freeloader imposing on your valuable time, I'm a subscriber. My PayPal ID is Take Back the Farm. That's a story he owns.
Oh, the elusive Take Back the Farm.
I've heard you guys read it out loud with the list of subscribers a couple times and laughed. Keep up the great work, guys. I love listening to the podcast and hope it continues to grow.
Landel. Take Back the Farm is Landel the Mandel?
That sounds like a cool store, eh? Take Back the Farm. You should open one up in Calgary. And probably like local farm goods and stuff.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah. Fuck yeah. That's the kind of shit I have to track down.
Yeah.
Be a ship.
Yeah. That'll save Darren from doing his little organic runs for the wifey.
So anything else?
I got an old hag experience, but it's quite long. Maybe I'd leave it for the next time.
I think we got. Yeah, let's leave it for the next time. I am missing the Flames game. They're beating the Canucks. The Twitter people know about. That's why the podcast was a few days late.
Oh, really?
Told the Twitter people. There's a game Friday.
What about people that don't really care about pro sports anymore? Like, there's bigger things going on than like fucking cheering for a little team, and everybody wants their team to be the best in the league. Like, it'll only be two in the league.
Cheer for your little team. Hey, Rob. Tough break.
So, anyways, help out the show, please. Help with their expenses. We don't have any ads. It's a value for value show. I want to thank a couple guys that did reviews.
Even if you can't subscribe, you can always just donate once in a while. Of course, we appreciate all our subscribers, all our one-time donators, people sending us art, all our bloggers. We got a new blog there that people should go check out.
Shit, I want to read that.
I think Can
I read that quickly?
Sure.
Okay, and I want to just say thanks to Sabago from the USA and Vic Davian 33 from the USA for reviewing us on iTunes. I won't read the reviews, but they're great, and thank you very much. That's another way to help the show. And then we have a great comic blogger, graphic novel kind of blogger, and his blog just recently posted is called Dream Sign, and it's pretty cool.
Is it real or a dream? What does that
the lucid dreaming jingle mean? I like it. So this is from the About the Author section. Ever since I was a kid, I had nightmares that pretty much kicked my ass. I don't know why. My childhood wasn't really any more traumatic than the usual. Where things take a turn for the weird here is that, unlike seemingly everyone else in the world, I can wake up from them. Oh, I can't wake up from them, he says. Yeah, it's pretty much as bad as it sounds. It's not all wet sheets and sobs, though. As a result of this little glitch, I stumbled upon lucid dreaming pretty early on. Basically, a lucid dream happens when you become conscious of dreaming. When you catch on, you can start to pull the strings from within, kind of, but it doesn't always work out perfectly. Lucid dreamers usually have what's called a dream sign, or something that signals you to the fact you're dreaming. For whatever reason, my dream sign is Meg Ryan, the beloved rom-com queen of the 90s. I don't know why. I suspect it has to do with compulsive viewing of Top Gun as a child. My young mind heard, "Take me to bed or lose me forever." And damned if I didn't just do that.
Lucid dream sex?
No, every time he goes to bed, he dreams of Meg Ryan's his dream sign, right? And there's that line in the movie. I suppose I'm lucky that Tom Cruise doesn't saunter around in my dreamscape, shirtless with a volleyball in hand and a beckoning smile. Anyway, I've decided to try and illustrate some of my dreams here for your amusement. You're welcome. That's from Napoleon de Him.
Yeah, and that's you can find the first installment of that at grimerica.ca/dreamsign.
And I think it's
nice
really
art.
Meg
does real good work.
And Meg, I can understand the Meg Ryan thing, but for me, it was definitely the faked orgasm and When Harry Met Sally that would make her my dream sign. No comment?
Never seen it.
Really?
Yeah, really.
The movie or the clip?
The movie.
Have you seen the clip, right?
What clip?
Where she fakes the orgasm in the restaurant?
Oh, yeah, I've seen that.
Okay.
I've seen that clip.
That's Meg Ryan at her best.
Yeah.
Yeah. Alrighty. Anyways, thanks for the blog.
That's a nice little addition. I really like.
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's kind of different, and it's welcome aboard.
Yeah. So another way to help out is just send us your comments and trip reports, psychedelic experiences, aka, and lucid dreams and UFO sightings or synchronicities. Spamgram. My email is graham@grimerica.com, and Twitter tweet Darren at Grimerica.
Like the Facebook page, we're almost up to 1,000 likes.
Oh wow, good.
The Twitter sends to the Facebook too, so things do happen there.
Okay, cool.
There's actually some people that are on the Facebook that aren't on the Twitter. It's always weird. Facebook seems like an antique.
Yeah. What, really?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah. Anyway, I think we've run out of things to say for this week.
See you next
Until the
week.
outro.
Enjoy the...
That's fucking 2 weeks in a row we fucking thought it was the outro.
Enjoy the chat with Sonia Brosz. That's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, it's good stuff. We'll see you in the outro.
I've kind of got a different view on possession and religion and all this now after that. So it's kind of mind-blowing.
Okay, guys, in Grimerica tonight, we're going to be talking about all sorts of fun stuff, as usual. Some exorcism, I'm looking forward to that. See if we can exorcise a few of Graham's demons. Graham.
Oh, come on, buddy.
Yeah, how's it going?
Good. Yeah, I'm excited for tonight, too. It kind of falls a little bit along the lines of one of our last episodes there we had about anomalous trauma with Eve Lorgan and stuff like that. So Anomatrauma. And so Sonia contacted us, and I was in the middle of reading a book on exorcism. Actually, I was listening to it. It was an audio book, and we decided to have her on sooner than later. Now, she's a legally ordained minister, and she's been a demonologist and an exorcist for like 38 years, and she works with all churches on an on-call consultant regarding like religious practices, rituals, magic. And I'm sure we're going to hear a slightly different take from what you normally hear about, so-called demonic disturbances. She's got quite the website there, lots of verbiage on there, lots of good stuff. I appreciate the fact that she kind of put it all there on her website instead of just selling a book about it all. So anyways, without further ado, we'll hear more about Sonia's past and what she's doing in the present and the future. So welcome to the Grimerica Show, Sonia.
Thank you, Graham. I really appreciate you guys having me on, and I've been looking forward to this. Thanks so much, Darren. Appreciate that.
No problem.
Yeah, you said I have a different take on it. I guess I really do. Not so much that I don't believe that exorcism of satanic beings has to be, done by God.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe that, truly. I don't believe, however, that everything people believe is demonic is actually demonic. And that's really what I do for a lot of these churches and things. I go in and I take a look at situations, but I look at everything. I look at the land. What's the land on top of? What's it laying on top of? Are there earth disturbances underneath? What's going on? Are there water lines going underneath their ley lines? I started My great-grandmother was Welsh and Irish, and all the way back in our family line, as far as we can trace it, which goes clear back through France and Italy, and I don't even know where, there's been at least one or two people out of each generation that are what they call natural seers. And we've always worked for God. We've always worked for the church. Not that we haven't had other regular secular jobs as well, this type of thing. You have to pay the bills, right? Because we never charge for what we do for God. It's never something that we ever take money for. So it's kind of come down to me in this generation. Perhaps one of my other cousins has this same gift. I really don't know. People don't normally talk about it. I don't hang out a shingle. I'm a very private person. Nobody really knows that much about me. And I guess I like it that way. I like the privacy. No, I haven't sold any books, because in my business, it's not always the greatest thing sometimes after you come through a really, really difficult situation, and especially one where there's a lot of magic and things like that involved, you don't always want them remembering your name, when you leave,
Yeah.
You don't want pictures of yourself to, on flashing all over the place and whatnot. I've always found it best just to, tidy up my things and go home and, not talk about it. So that's kind of really where I stand with a lot of things. But I think that to understand what's really demonic, I think you really have to understand what really is demonic. There's so much misunderstanding out there in the world today. People, all the Ghostbusters, I love the Ghostbusters. A lot of these guys are really good friends of mine, and they're wonderful people. But, a lot of people think that they're stepping into a demonic situation when, in fact, it may be really creepy and scary and all of that sort of thing, but it's not necessarily demonic. I have my own thinking. I studied physics for a very, very long time. I was a physicist. And it's my take, really, on this whole entire universe that there are just who knows how many life forms out there. How many can we see? How many are interdimensional? How many fly by us every minute? How many walk by us every minute? How many are occupying the same space that we are? And we don't know it, and fortunately, hopefully, they don't know it either, right? In all of the study that I've done over all these years, I've encountered a lot of different types of beings. And I have rarely, but I have encountered demonic, but I have rarely encountered true demonic entities. When you do, believe me, you'll know it. And I mean, I don't care if you're a regular layman and you've never gone to church in your life, you will know evil when you get around it. If it's true evil, if it's truly that type of thing, you're going to know it because every hair on your head wants to run, all right? And you could be 20, okay, and in 5 minutes you'd be bald. I'm telling you, you just truly know that it's really, truly evil,
What about more subtle forms? Is that common too? Like, the devil on your shoulder sort of thing, to the degenerate gambler or something like that?
Well, yeah, I think people can attract, they can attract entities that feed off of different types of things, like greed or fear, murderous thoughts, evil thoughts. I think that there are entities that, if you expose yourself to enough situations that are really, I would say, kind of considered on the fringe of societal
norms.
Yes.
Like sinful type stuff?
Well, I think it has to go a little bit beyond sinful. In other words, there's a guy that might watch the midnight movie type thing on Cinemax, and then there's the guy that is into like a very sadistic type of porn and that sort of thing. So I think you're looking at stuff that even goes past them normally. It's like, I think we all know when we're crossing a line. We all come up to a line of things, whether it's going from saying snatching a candy bar to robbing a bank. You're going across a line there, okay? And once people kind of go across that line, like if they transgress to the point where they truly inside of themselves feel remorse, they feel guilty, or they know they're guilty. They may not feel remorse, they might be sociopathic, but they might know that they're guilty, they know they've done something really heinous. That's where these types of things can descend on and kind of latch on to people. They're not all demonic. Some of them are just perverse entities of different types,
Huh. That reminds me of that book I was reading when you contacted me. It was called The Rite, and it was the making of a modern exorcist. And it kind of mirrored what you're saying about not everything being at that level of demonic activity. Like, definitely the whole story, it was pretty interesting story. It was about a guy from America who went to the Vatican and learned how to be would it have been the Vatican? I guess so. Anyways, he went to Italy and to learn how to be an exorcist, and his whole experience through it, and he talked about
Thomas.
Pardon me?
That's Father Gary Thomas.
Yeah, Father Gary, right? Yeah.
Yeah, he's a good friend of mine now.
Yeah, for some reason I had a feeling about that. But yeah, the whole protocol that they went through to sort of tease out any sort of psychological problems or attention sort of getting behaviors and all this normal stuff that would actually, I guess, cut through a lot of the crap really to get down to, when there really was an exorcism required. So it makes sense. So is that sort of what you're talking about? Is almost like a checklist of things that you would do to make sure that there wasn't something going on? Yes,
exactly. Yeah, a lot of times, I'll go out and take a look at things like, for example, they might come across what they consider a possible ritualistic killing, whether it's people or animals or maybe simply just ritualistic vandalism of some kind or something. Sometimes, years ago I used to just hop on a plane and fly. Now they send me pictures or whatever so that I can take a look at them. And a lot of times I will consult with friends of mine who are from different religions, that are, for example, Santeria, Santeros, or someone who is very, very knowledgeable in voodoo or hoodoo or another type of whatever type of religion. I've studied things so long. Symbology is a really major thing in religion, and it's not always just about the symbols you see written on or like put on a wall or something like that. It can also be things about the way things are laid out, the way they're, or like, for example, like the spot that they're placed. Like, there are times where I come across areas that have a lot of energy that swirls. It has some people say, okay, I'm not talking about a vortex. I'm talking about it's almost like a power feed spot. Maybe it's an interdimensional portal of some kind. I really don't know.
Like the ley lines you're talking about, kind of?
Yeah, well, kind of like where ley lines intersect, that type of thing.
Okay.
Sometimes it can be that type of thing. Sometimes it's just a natural spot in the ground. You just kind of get there and you can, all of a sudden you just feel totally discombobulated, so it could be a electromagnetic. It could be simply magnetic. Some types of magnetic forces in opposition of some sort. Anyway, there's just different spots around the world, and sometimes people find these spots accidentally. And if they're of that type of mind where they're maybe thinking towards doing something of some nature, something criminal or whatever, sometimes they'll come back and they'll actually place things in these areas. Sometimes, like, for example, there have been places where there were ritual killings, and there were quite a few done by a serial killer. When you get close to the area, you can literally feel the energy change. And like I said, I'm not psychic. This is. I mean, you can physically feel it. Most people, if you just stop, take a breath, and kind of get aware of your body and your relationship with the earth itself, you can feel these things. You don't have to be psychic to feel it. I've had cops who are just regular, straightforward, just the facts, ma'am, guys, and they're like, what is up with this place? I'll get out of the car and they'll be like, ever since from the minute I got out of my car and walked around, I feel like I'm halfway here and halfway there and this type of thing. But there just are places like that around the earth, and it's one of the reasons I liked geology and oceanography and physics and all that. I studied it a lot to find the answers, to understand what was going on.
So do you think that people that have some sort of disposition towards, or maybe even the stage of their life that they're at, if they pass these places or they end up in these places, they could pick up some sort of energy that might manifest or increase that tendency?
Well, it might increase any tendency they have.
Yeah,
if
right.
It's a tendency towards good, it can be increased. If it's towards bad, it can be increased. I did my first vision quest with Frank Foolscrow. He was the ceremonial chief of the Teton Sioux, which is a group of 7 tribes. I'm from North Dakota originally, and anyway, he was down by Bear Butte in South Dakota, and my mother had met him many years before. And I turned 18, and I had asked her for my birthday present. I said I really wanted to meet, Frank Foolscrow. And so she introduced me to him. And anyway, a little short time later, he took me out for my first vision quest. And he was a very unassuming man. He was a very very private man, very, very immersed in God, and just all it lived. He just saw God in everything. He just saw the Creator in everything. It influenced me for the rest of my life. The fact that he was able to combine all of these the wisdom of all these different energies of nature and how the world works, and in what he had learned, and how the cosmology works, the stars and the earth and the planets and all the different things with the wisdom of the Creator as he saw it. It was profound. It was a profound experience for me, and it really did actually change my life from simply looking at religion in a way of dogma, and looking more at God as a living, breathing part of all that is. And it was probably the most wonderful moment of my life when I no longer felt bound by dogma. I just felt a part of this incredible flow of light and energy and love and all of that. So it became, I guess you could say, I kind of have a love affair with, God, the essence of God, and the essence of everything He created. And that's really how I approach my life.
Did that really start you on your path? Because you had quite a few negative experiences. I was reading on your website there from hauntings and being in a family that was haunted. And from what I remember, only some of you would acknowledge what was going on. And so after all that, did this really change, sort of propel you on this new sort of more cosmic love sort of path?
Well, I think it what it did is it opened up to me the fact that God could be approached in many different ways. Yes, I had grown up. I was scared to death. we had some replay ghost running up and down our stairway all night long, every single night. Or, my friends wouldn't do sleepovers. I mean, they'd call their parents at 3:30 in the morning, come and get me, Yeah, it was creepy. I'll get up. My sisters, all of us together, even now, at our age, we get together and, the first time we ever heard our dad acknowledge that there were ghosts in our house was like maybe 3 or 4 years before he passed away, and he was 96 when he passed away. And we're like, and he said, "Oh, you mean the ghosts?" And we're like, every one of us just kind of dropped our jaw and turned and looked at him and said, "You mean you're going to finally admit there were ghosts in the house?" And he's like, "Oh, yeah, those are my cousins. They built the house. I bought it from them."
Wow.
Yeah, I wish he would have just told us that, way back in the day, But it was at least we would have known we were related. We wouldn't have been so scared of him. But, it was really interesting, because I was raised a Lutheran. And the Lutherans at that time, they didn't have any teaching about ghosts and demons and all that kind of stuff. I mean, basically what you read in the Bible, you read in the Bible. There was very little talk about, nobody talked about demons. Nobody talked really about the devil other than the Garden of Eden and some of the instances listed, actually in the Bible itself. But they were, trust me, briefly passed over, okay? So nobody really wanted to talk about anything like that. And every time I would try to talk to a minister or somebody about it, he would just practically, he'd have a hard time holding a straight face, and then he'd say, "Well, I just really, don't think that you're in any kind of danger from anything like that." And he kind of scooped me out of the room, and then turn around to the door and call for my mother. So I couldn't get any answers. I started reading everything I could find. I just kept reading and reading and reading. I mean, I was reading everything. I mean, my grandmother was a school teacher. Both grandmothers were. My mother was. We had quite a few books of our own, but every time I'd get to a library, I'd be in the middle of that library, and I'd read all kinds of stuff that was way beyond my understanding, just trying to find just words I could relate to, anything I could pick up. And this is way from grade school already. So I was into Madame Blavatsky before I was even 14. I was reading, you name it, I was reading it. If I could see it and find it, I read it. And then when I met Frank Fools Crow, I suddenly realized that I needed to be wiser in my choices of reading. I needed to look for specific things. And I began to look at a lot of anthropologists' writings. And I started to look at a lot of different things at that point in time. I was taking physics in college when I first started, and when I read about Faraday's work in the ghost electron, right there, something clicked. And I went, wait a minute, what do you mean ghost electron? In other words, if you've got a solid, in other words, because you can't see them, but let's just say one solid electron, why do you have a ghost electron? And it just got to me to the point where I literally grabbed what little money I had and bought a bus ticket. I jumped on a bus and went from Dickinson, North Dakota to UC Davis on a bus. I didn't have enough money for food, guys. I mean, seriously, right? I mean, I had salted nut rolls and things like that. I was eating one peanut at a time. I went on the bus out, and I got out to see. I wanted to see Richard Feynman because I'd read his things and I was really interested. And so I lied my way into his office. I did. I told him I was one of his students, and of course I wasn't. And I walked in the office, and he took one look at me and said, "You have 5 minutes, little miss. Mm-hmm. Or you're out of here. Okay, you better have a good explanation for why you lied to get into my office because I'm a busy man." He was not laughing. All right, and so I got to meet him and discuss some things with him, and I told him what my theory was, and that I really believed that there was an overlapping universe, because how could you have a ghost without having an overlapping universe? Light would hold the two. Light would hold the two universes apart. One's matter, one's antimatter, and light would be the barrier. That barrier would be full of photons, but it would also be full of God. Otherwise, why would he say, "Let there be light"? And it just all made sense to me right then and there. It just kind of all came crashing into me. And he sat there and he listened to me, and we went out to eat.
Really?
And, yep. And the next day, he put me back on the bus, but he gave me enough money for food. And he said,
way.
"Don't you ever do that again. You put yourself at huge risk. You can never do this again, jumping on buses without any money and this and that, you know." And so I came home, but it was the most important thing I ever did in my entire life. And after that, I just started to look at everything differently. And I began to realize that as I got older, when I did encounter true evil, true satanic evil, I realized that the energy field was different. It went backwards. It literally went backwards. Whatever demons touch, wherever they touch, actually, they're pure thought. But whenever they can direct energy into something or somebody gets possessed or whatever, the energy in that area starts to run backwards. And it literally, if it touches the hand, it starts to eat away at the hand. It starts to change the way the energy flows in that hand. It makes the hand sick. So when you look at, when people go out there ghost busting, it's one thing I've really tried to tell them. Make sure that they use exorcise oil on their hands. Make sure that they, use holy water and all of these different things. Spray these things down before they touch them. Because I've run into a number of people that have gotten really, really sick out there when they have encountered actual evil. And in talking to so many of the true exorcists, and I mean from all different churches, whenever they've really encountered true evil, they literally, Protestant ministers, I've seen them just literally go dunk themselves into a baptismal font of blessed water, just reach down with their hands and pour water over their face and head and things to cleanse themselves after dealing with evil. The priests, they will do the same thing. They'll just literally pour holy water over their hands and their face, or they'll clear themselves by whatever way that they can. Huh. And I began to realize that the only way to stop, because that becomes a little nest wherever they touch, and that nest allows them entrance into the body, and it ends up coming up through the nervous system and into the back of the neck, and then into the head, and then the third stage, it goes to behind the eyes. And so I started to look at all of this stuff, and I realized that there's only one thing that's apostolic. Everybody thinks it's Catholic. It's not Catholic. It's apostolic. That stops this progression and heals the wounds. And that is exorcised oil, water, and salt. It just does. Oil, water, and salt's all the way through the Bible. But somewhere along in the early church fathers and the writings, they talked about when they prayed over the water for baptism, the baptism became an exorcism. So that water was blessed in a certain way that literally gave it the ability to exorcise. So once someone was baptized, they came out of that water completely clear and pure of their sin and all of that. So see, the rites of the Catholic Church, the rites of exorcism, those are rites that were literally translated from the Syriac, Aramaic, and the Greek into Latin. So before they were translated, there was no formal actual guide to how to perform an exorcism. It was basically a smattering of writings here and there and here and there that people, from this church, they use this kind of part of it and this kind of part of it and whatever. The one thing that was consistent was the use of oil, water, and salt. So I began to look at all that.
Oregano oil?
No, oil. No, what kind of oil is it?
Exorcised.
So basically oil, like holy water made into oil sort of thing?
They take regular olive oil and they exorcise the oil. They say a prayer of exorcism.
Oh, it was olive oil. Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, olive oil. But any oil they could do this with, really, but olive oil is the preferred, thing. And then salt, it can be any kind of salt. But they exorcise the salt with a blessing, and then they exorcise water with the blessing. Or you can put salt into the water, and that will exorcise the water. You don't have to say a separate prayer for the water if you don't want to. When I'm traveling, I can't carry exorcised water with me, obviously, on planes or whatever. So I just carry salt and oil. And when I get there, I just put a little bit of, only a few grains, I'm telling you. It only takes a couple of grains of salt. You can put 3 grains of salt in your whole entire bathtub and hop in and heal yourself up. Get up and anoint any area that you're having problems with the oil, and it'll start to heal up, So yeah, it's very powerful. But it's the one medium that is not used by any other religion. Holy water itself, holy oil, or what they call just blessed oil or whatever, that's, people use it for many different religions. I mean, it's used in many of the islander religions and many of the ones that combine their religion with Catholicism or anything. Even we've got proof of tribes, using oil from different plants and water and different things. So they had their own blessings and everything. But it's like they all knew, oil, water, and salt was the way to go, and so they all kind of adopted it. But exorcised oil is unique in the fact that it cannot be used by any other religion. It can't be used in any other type of ritual. It can't be used for anything other than what it is. So that's why that's the only thing I ever carry. And that's the only thing exorcists ever carry, unless they come into a situation that doesn't need exorcised water.
Yeah. So can you talk to us a little bit more about how you would weed out the non-demonic demonic possession, or like basically the irrational sort of fear or paranoia that somebody may have instead of being possessed? Like, can you give me some examples of how you would tease that out?
Well, I will look at it from my human point of view, based on my experience and my study and all that. So I'll look for certain indicators that you would look for in psychology and that sort of thing. But as a natural seer means that God gives you the information directly. It's not like he talks to me, guys. Okay, he doesn't appear and it's that I just know in my heart, and that's the Holy Spirit. It's a gift of the Holy Spirit. It's like I could meet somebody and personally be at a total quandary. Is this person possessed, or are they just very ill, or or is something else going on? Are they being brainwashed, or is somebody trying to control them, or whatever? I can come into that and personally not really honestly have a clue, no matter how much sorting I do. But God knows. And it's like all of a sudden I will simply know what their problem really is. And I just do. And that's why exorcists work with seers. Not all seers, but most of the seers that work, especially with the Catholic Church, are proved seers. In other words, they're proven seers. See, because we can be wrong. As people, I mean, seriously, I'm just like anybody else. I'm 50% right, 50% wrong about just about anything and everything. But God's never wrong. So when God gives you information, it's always right. And it's not like he gives you a ton of it at one time, okay? It's just one thing here, and then maybe one thing there. And, you know, it's not like he says, well, he doesn't like talking. God doesn't talk in sentences, so to speak. And he never uses the word I. So if people think they're listening to God and they're hearing the word I come out of that mouth, I'm sorry, it's not God. He only said, I am that I am one time, and that was to Moses in the burning bush. The rest of the time, God, if God wants you to do something, it's like you'll just feel like, go do this, or go do that, or this person's possessed, be careful. Or you'll just know, you just know in your heart. And every seer I've ever talked to has been like that. Some seers actually see with their eyes. Thank the good Lord, I don't see demons and things like that with my eyes.
Do you just sense them then?
Yes, I do.
Is it overwhelming at times? Like, is it bad? Like, are some places worse than others, like the subway or the mall?
No, actually, no. The subway or the mall, I mean, they're just regular. Most 90% of the time, you got to be more afraid of the creepy humans than you worry about. The bank. Good one. That is so good. That is so choice. That's rich. Yeah, really.
Rich.
Yeah, especially if you're a Rockefeller, right? But yeah, you know, it's like, when you need to stay away from a place. My husband and I, we like to go out and, what we call little adventures, and we'll just take like a day trip, and we'll just drive around and, I don't know, thrift store or something, whatever. We see this, we see that, and go have a hamburger over here, do whatever. And sometimes we'll be driving around, and all of a sudden, both of us will just turn and look at each other, and he's like, I don't think so, honey. And I'm like, that's just motor on. And we'll just go right past a place because we can feel the creepy crap coming out of it. It's just the evil, icky, You can, I work with this one Lutheran minister a lot. He is really phenomenal. He's a really great guy. And he lives up north. And anyway, every once in a while, he'll call me up and he'll say, I am so tired of the ickiness. I had a priest tell me one time, the hardest thing for any exorcist is to not swear. Because, we're people before we take this job, right? We're just regular people, and the tendency to want to go, is right there, because I'm telling you, when you get the crap scared out of you, just plain to get the crap scared out of you, and you just want to, like everybody else, scream and run like hell,
I get in trouble for swearing all the time, too, if it helps.
Oh, me too. Me too. Trust me. I'm being very good tonight on the air.
Hey, you don't have to be. This is where you can be bad if you really want to, so.
Oh, shit, that's great.
Oh, that's funny.
But, truly, yeah. I mean, I don't know. We're all human beings. We can't, you can't hold yourself up to such a high standard that you can't live. You know what I mean? I think so many people get miserable in their life. Sometimes people, think they're possessed because they got mad and swore last week. I literally had people call me up and say, "Is my kid possessed because he's listening to rap music and he's swearing all over the place and all this kind of stuff?"
And was the answer yes?
It depends on what kind of rap.
No, usually has nothing to do with possession. It just has to do with the fact that he's growing up. Maybe he just wants to fit in. Maybe he just gets tight. Maybe they're holding him down too tight. Maybe they've got too many tight restrictions on him to the point where he can't breathe. I raised 2 sons. They swear like troopers, but but not all the time. I mean, they're good fathers. They're happily married. They're terrific at their jobs. But I just, instead of yelling, screaming, hollering, or just going through all kinds of hoorah, hoorah, I had squirt guns. I had them hid all over the house. And whenever they just really get out of line with something, I could tell they were just getting all fired up, just to jump in my face and rat-a-tat-a-tat-a-tat, And I'd go and I'd grab a squirt gun and I'd just stand there with it behind my back or whatever. And they just jump in, and just before they cut loose, I just pull that squirt gun up from behind them and just go, tush, 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 gotcha. And I'd take off running. And, they knew there were squirt guns hid all over the house. So they'd grab one and then they'd be shooting me and I'd be shooting them. And I didn't care if it was on the furniture. I didn't care if it hit the table. I didn't care if it hit the bureau. It didn't matter. Water dries. That's why God invented paper towels. We would start laughing and it would just get funny and hilarious. And I don't know, I'm really, really close to my sons. God's shown me a way to not ride on their buns and shown them a way to be able to deal with mom and dad in the world at the same time. And something works somewhere,
Acceptance goes a long way.
It does. Non-judgment goes a lot further.
Yeah. I totally agree. Those are some pretty heavy principles that can really work, I think. Hey, I wanted to get into ghosts and demons a little bit. I kind of was forming a question here because you were talking about ghosts and then we go to demons and you, I guess, have experience, exorcism or exorcising these 2 sort of different phenomena would be the right term for it, but would also, I guess I'm interested in the difference, the way you see ghosts versus like demons, for example. But Justin, who's one of our bloggers and he helps us out on the show here and stuff, he's got a question for you, and he's a big fan of ghosts too. But he says, have you ever exorcised or heard of a human spirit possessing another human? And if so, is the ritual the same or does it differ?
Is that like me possessing you?
Yeah.
Nice.
Well, 50 Shades of Grey here.
I don't get the reference.
Great.
You just left yourself wide open for that. I'm going to tell you, in what I do, I have to have one hell of a good sense of humor, okay? So don't think you're going to slide on me, okay? I'll nail you. I have to. I just have to keep laughing because if I took all this stuff so horrendously as seriously as it really, really, really is, I would probably have been dead 20 years ago. Honestly, I don't think a human ghost can possess another human being, and I think if you ever run into something that is masquerading that way, I think you really need to take another look at what the situation really is, because human spirits, I can see where a human spirit might perhaps hang out a little bit, right after they die or whatever. But the human physicality, the soul and the spirit itself actually leave the body. That's that 22 or 12 ounces or whatever that it is, that takes off, that leaves the body. The physicality of that person, however, can retain it still has all the memory cells in place and all of that sort of thing. Any entity cruising by or hanging out waiting for somebody to pass away can adopt a little bit of that personality. Now, all that they can adopt is actual things that ghost said when it was alive. If it's a word that ghost never used while it's alive, you're not going to hear it come out of that ghost. So if that person, say for example, say it's little Freddie down the street, well, he's not going to suddenly start talking like Stephen Hawking, all right? So anything that child said when he was alive, that entity can use to mimic being that child. And I've seen these entities, not all of them demonic either, by the way. I've seen these entities use someone else's identity to worm their way in to residency into a home or into an area that they wanted to stay in or just hang out in or whatever.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So sorry to interrupt you, but
energy.
Just so what you're saying is a ghost could very likely be, instead of it being like the ghost of my father being like that, like my father's spirit or whatever, it could have been an entity that sort of captured some of his resonance or memory from the physical body, and he could be sort of pretending to be his ghost. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Well, you'll find that in, for example, say that. Okay, for example, a lot of people can experience, so to speak, maybe a small visitation or something like that from a passed away relative that is actually more of a gift from God, or maybe they prayed really hard for it, maybe that they wanted to interact lightly once in a great while. That's one thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. You can't discount all those encounters, really. Yeah.
No. It's the ones where
it's more like a haunting then. Yeah.
Yeah, suddenly the husband's sitting there talking to you every single day. And I'm telling you, that would freak me out, okay? I'd be throwing exorcised oil, salt, and water at my husband's chair if he started doing that, okay, after he passed away. That would creep me out totally. No, because you see, these entities, they don't just take a hike. They hang around. I dealt with a woman once. She owned this big business. I'm not going to get too specific on any of these people because I really respect their privacy.
Yeah.
But she owned a really big business, and the ghost of her husband consistently had been around since he had passed away. Now, I didn't know this woman's husband in real life or anything like that, but according to all these different people, he was a very kind man and a very wise and loving husband and just a really, really nice guy. Well, here's the thing. The longer this ghost hung around, the weaker she got, the sicker she got, the worse she felt. It was just pulling energy from her to live. It was just literally living off of her life force. And so her business partners called me in and they said, please, would you come help us? Would you come and exercise our entire business? Would you come and exercise every part of it? And it was a huge place. It was a hotel. And I said, wow, okay, well, look, here's the thing. Once I come in there, everything is going to either move on, or if there are any truly trapped spirits there, they're going to be set free. They're going to go to God, go wherever they were meant to go originally. And I said, no, that means that all spiritual activity is going to stop. It's just going to come to a dead halt immediately. And they said, really? And I said, yeah. Okay, so they're excited. They're like thrilled. And they're like buying plane tickets and everything else. And I'm getting ready to jump on the plane. And I get this call from this woman. And she tells me, well, I don't want the good spirits to go. I said, what? said, you can get rid of all the other spirits, but I don't want the good spirits to go. And I said, you mean the spirit of your husband? Is that what you're talking about? And she said, yes. And I said, your husband was a very kind and wonderful guy, right? She said, yes, he was. And I said, how do you think he would feel right now if he saw you talking to somebody that wasn't even him, that was just pretending to be him, and is sucking your life force out from under you every single day and making you sick? How do you think he would feel? Don't you think that he would be upset? And she said, oh, but he doesn't do that. No, it's all these other spirits that are hanging out here that do that. And I said, well, you know, if I come there, all of this activity is going to stop. So if you don't want me to come there, then you need to tell me. And she did. She said, no, I don't want you to come.
That must have been a difficult conversation.
Well, you know, the thing is, I come into conversations like that all the time.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they can really, really, you know, they get fooled. You know, I had a lady one time swear up and down, you know, that she had Gene Kelly living in her living room. You know, this is like 20 years after he'd passed, you know.
Who's Gene Kelly?
He was a dancer. He was a movie star back in the day, you know what I mean, the 40s or whatever, 50s and all that. But she said, yeah, she danced waltzes with him every night, and she didn't want me coming to clear her house, even though her kids were begging me to come. Otherwise, they were going to put her in a care home, you know. But she said no, she didn't want it, you know. I'm not going to do something people don't want, because then they're just going to reinvite whatever it is back in.
So do you do the same sort of process for exorcising ghosts out of somebody's like house compared to exorcising somebody who's demonically possessed?
No. Usually when a house has a problem, if it's property or a house, there's other things that going on there. There's
right.
Land movement, vortexes, all of that. I shut the vortexes down to quiet the movement, to quiet it sucking in all of these life forms and holding them prisoner. Some life forms just aren't strong enough to escape an actual natural vortex. So I shut the vortex down, and at that point, anything that wants to leave gets out. It takes off. Anything that doesn't want to leave will continue to hang on. And then basically what I do is I start, if there's a basement especially, any hole in the ground can start a vortex, which is why graveyards are such a big vortex area, and they usually have so many problems. There's a lot of holes in the ground. So, and it's a wound in the earth, you know, a man-made wound. So what I do is I go and I salt the ground. I salt the basement first. If there's a basement, then I salt the ground around the house. And then I go floor by floor by floor to the attic, and I salt every single floor. Now you can, if you're in a situation where it's just a light case of the occasional thing going on, you know, basically you want to put that salt water in the corners. What I'll do is I'll put salt into water, into a spray bottle, and I'll spray right above the floorboard, because nobody's going to vacuum the salt up, you see. So if you spray the salt water, and I don't mean douse it, okay, you don't want paint running down your wall, but just a cup, just a spray or two is plenty, trust me. And you just go and you hit every single corner. You start at your front door and you go to your right, and you go all the way around and you hit every single closet, bathroom, everything. You hit every corner. If you can't hit the corner down low, you hit the corner up high. You just go all the way around and you know, everything. You hit everything. And then you go to the next floor and you do the same thing. Now, if there's really, really heavy activity, a lot of vortex activity and stuff, I will literally sprinkle salt all over the attic and all over the basement. Yes, I'll get the corners, but I will get everything, because I want to stop it cold. And when I stop it cold, whatever's there that's not good has to leave. It cannot stand being around exorcised oil, water, and salt. It can't do it. So salt, you know, water cleanses, salt purifies, and oil seals. So you you cleanse first with the water, and then you nullify whatever's going on with that salt, and then you seal it tight with that oil, and you pay attention to everything, your windowsills, your door sills, around your doors, all of that type of thing. And usually all activity stops. But if it's a real demon, then you're in for the ride of your life. Because while you're up...
Does the type of salt matter? Does it matter if it's like table salt or road salt or Himalayan healing salt?
No, it just has to be actual true salt. And it has to be exorcised by a priest with the Latin blessing, which I have in my. Now, any truly ordained minister can use that Latin prayer and exorcise water, oil, and salt. It does not have to necessarily be a Catholic priest, although it's more powerful if it is. Why, I'm not really sure, but it is. I've met Lutheran ministers, however, that have been very successful, and they never used to do any exorcism at all until a couple of years ago. But I've met Methodists, and I've given this prayer to Buddhists, and they've used it. It works. It does. So, but if you run into something truly demonic, you might just have your head handed to you when you walk through the door. You don't even get that spray bottle out, okay? You don't even get your hand in the salt, all right? You're lucky if you have a hand to put in the salt. I've literally, in Washington, D.C., there was a row house that was so bad that, priest after priest went over there and took a look at it and turned around and walked out and went to the diocese there, and the archbishop himself came over to that home. And when they opened the door, everything in that house was flying around. Tables, chairs, furniture, you name it. Dishes, coffee cups. When those people left, they just ran for their lives. They could never, they literally boarded up. The archbishop ordered it sealed, and he sealed that home. And that home can never, ever be unsealed. It is absolutely a goner, okay? There have been other homes, there have been other properties that they've had to do that with. They're just absolutely, they're just to the point where the evil is so powerful and so strong and so prevalent that nothing can be done. You risk your life to even walk through the door, But I've had things fly by my head. Holy mackerel. I'm telling you, seriously. It's creepy.
And then there's, I guess, the same type of level for human possession. Like, sometimes you can exercise it, and sometimes it takes decades, type thing.
Oh, truly, yeah. I don't do personal exorcisms, and the reason is that my license as a minister is purely secular. I'm actually a Catholic, a Maronite Catholic. I took the secular reverendship so that I could protect the privacy of the people I work with, because I have to go in and ask in-depth questions and whatever, for whatever church I'm working with, to be able to assess a situation. And when I walk into people's homes, they might have this laying out, that laying out, whatever. Anyway, they're entitled to their privacy. They don't need to be harmed any further, right? So I'm a legal minister in all 50 states of the United States, but I am a secular minister, so I am under no circumstances am I hands-on ordained. And although I know of certain, I know that there have been very strong believer Christian people who have exorcised demons personally, who are not ministers or ordained ministers. I'm sorry, that just isn't my calling. The exorcists of the church, the Catholic Church, tell me that God has given me a gift of exorcism, which is extremely rare. Once usually I've worked with possessed people and just simply, blessed them and cleared them with oil and water, and had them within a few days, 10 days I think was the longest one, and they were free. And I had no idea why or anything. But the priests who were observing all of this throughout the whole thing told me afterwards, and told me at the diocese that they said that they believed I had a gift for it. But it's not something that I use lightly or that I even think about, actually. Humility is a really big thing in working with something that is as old and as evil and as powerful as the devil. So I'm not really sitting around touting my credentials to the devil. He pretty much probably flattened me before I could, lift a finger. I don't know. I think when it comes to exorcising people, I like to get them to either their own personal church, if their own minister is willing to perform the exorcism. Perhaps he has a group of elders he's working with or something. I like to keep them within their own boundaries of their own faith, because that's where they feel comfortable. Usually we will proceed to the Catholic Church if the minister, their particular minister, feels that it's the right thing to do. So I don't try to tell anybody what to do. I work with everybody to be able to achieve the best situation possible.
Nice. Yeah. So have you seen a big rise on people that are sort of claiming they need exorcism? I mean, I've heard of a couple of articles now that are coming from, the Vatican, talking about how there's a big, huge increase in requests and people that think they are, and then they go into maybe some of the reasons why they think that's happening. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, truly. When I first began, I studied a lot of Father Malachi Martin's work. Like I said, I've never considered myself an exorcist. What I was doing is I was simply studying everything and anything I could find, because I kept running across all these different situations. And so I began to read what he had written and everything, and then of course I corresponded. And he wrote back, and he told me that in his experience, that in the last 10 years, and this was in the 90s, just before he passed away, really, mm-hmm. He said that the number of true possessions had gone up at least 100% from where he had been at. And he said there were 10 times as many possessions every year at that point, and that was like in 97, as there had been 10 years before. He said 10 years before, we might run into 1 or 2, maybe even 3 actual possessions in the United States and including Mexico or parts of Mexico. He said now, however, they were running into it at a very high rate. By the time I had talked to him, we had lost 4 exorcists to very bizarre circumstances. And within a month or so after I first corresponded with him, we lost a 5th one from up in Canada. He was driving home from an exorcism, and his car just suddenly went off the road and rolled a perfectly flat spot. The man was wide awake. There's no way he would have been falling asleep or anything would have been happening. He was not driving too fast, nothing. His car just literally left the road and flipped into the ditch and whatever, and the man was killed. So, there were quite a few different situations where exorcists were just being killed. It was a slaughter. We didn't have that many exorcists at the time, and it was dire each time we'd lose one, and it still is to this day. I had a case down in Juarez, Mexico, in 1996. And a born Catholic, cradle-born Catholic, spiritualist minister. He wasn't hands-on ordained by a bishop or anything. So he didn't consider himself really, a true minister. But in a way, I think he really was, because this guy, they had a tractor they couldn't get running for 3 months, and he went over and blessed it, and the tractor started. So don't tell me he wasn't, God definitely had given him some gifts. But he was an incredibly brilliant man. And for 10 days, we were down there in the middle of this war between two brujos. One had killed the other one, and now the whole family was cursed, and all these homes and property and land and everything. And it was really something. So we ended up having to clear all of these places. Huge clinic, huge, homes. These were aristocratic Mexicans, highly educated people. It was a very, very serious situation. And I told my minister friend, I said, when we were done, I said, listen, I'm on the plane today. I'm getting out of here. I said, you need to leave too. He said, oh, no, they want me to stay, as a spiritualist minister. And he was very intuitive. He used to do readings for people, and he'd make spending money that way a little bit. And I said, you just can't do that here. You've got to get out of here. I said, it's not good. And anyway, he had a few other problems too, but he ended up staying a little too long. Well, anyway, a year later, about a year and a half later, the same way, in other words, the one brujo had killed the other brujo by sending him a lover that was really sick who had AIDS. And the brujo ended up having, this brujo was an incredible doctor. He had cured AIDS in many, many people. Yet, when he tried to cure himself, this guy had ended up cursing all these other people in his family, and all of this stuff was just going to hell in a handbasket, literally. So he just simply said enough, and he just let himself die. No more curses really were put on the family, but what was already in place was what we actually had to clear because it was so bad. So what happened with my friend was that my friend, the spiritualist minister, was also gay. And he had, after this work down there, he had met a man he really truly loved, and they were together. Well, he'd called me from Los Angeles. It was coming up on December. It was right towards the end of Thanksgiving,
Christmas,
November in 2001. And anyway, he called me up, or 2000, I'm sorry, November 2000. He called me up and he said, I've decided to break up with this guy. I want to come to your guys' house, and just, he used to call it his sanctuary. We used to live up on a mountain in Colorado Springs. It's great. It was beautiful and peaceful. He loved it. And he said, I want to come to the sanctuary, and I want to sit back and just kick back and get well. And we said, sure, fine, no problem. Well, anyway, so he stopped in New Mexico to pick up his things. And while he was there, the boyfriend found out he was leaving him. And I had told Todd, I said, look, if you even get a sinus infection, get to a doctor right away. And he did get a sinus infection, but he didn't go to the doctor. And they got in a fight. The guy broke his eardrum, and that was 7 o'clock at night, and 2 o'clock in the next morning, they had to pull the plug.
Wow.
So it was a very similar circumstance. The other brujo had been still alive, the one that had killed the first one, and he had told us on the very last night that we were there. I literally felt like I was looking at the devil face to face when I talked to this man. I truly did. I've never felt so creeped out in my life. The human side of me wanted to run like you have no idea. And it was just literally kind of St. Michael or a saint coming over the top of me that held my feet on the ground. And I just, I knew this guy. I mean, I knew he was so perfectly possessed. It was unbelievable. I knew the second he walked through the gate. We were clear upstairs in the consultorial. He walked through the gate, and I knew the devil was on the ground. I could feel it. And I just literally stood in front of everybody else just like to protect them, you know. And it was so weird. Well, anyway, he told Todd, he said, you know, you're not long for this world. I'll see you gone. And he looked at us both. Well, at the same time that Todd was experiencing this situation and dying, I had a stomach ulcer. I didn't know I had a stomach ulcer, and it perforated. My husband had rushed me to the hospital. They barely saved my life by lasering it shut. It was like the size of a dime. So I was in the hospital near death. Todd was in the hospital dying. All of a sudden, as I'm laying there, I see this angel. Just, you know, and it's like he lifted me out of my body and set me to one side, and he laid down on my body, and he looked absolutely dead. All of a sudden, I looked dead. And then I saw these faces kind of pop through the wall. I mean, you can say I was delirious or something. I don't really know. I'm not, like I said, I don't normally see things with my eyes. But I could see these faces coming through and laughing. And then I saw this man at the end. I saw him look at and see my dead body, and he was laughing.
Laughing like at you or laughing with you?
Yeah, No, laughing at the fact that he thought I was dead and he knew Todd was dead too. And then he disappeared, and then the angel picked me. He got up out of my body, he picked me up, and he put me back in my body, and then he just smiled, and then he left. And no, I didn't see any wings, okay? So, but I knew it was an angel just the same. Anyway, so that I didn't hear, nobody wanted to tell me that Todd was gone because he was such a dear friend of mine. And when they did, I was literally crushed, but they didn't tell me until I actually got home. They didn't tell me about his death. But the circumstances were almost identical between him and the other girl. And of course, Todd at that point was the leading minister. He was the minister in the lead on that deal. But he didn't know anything about exorcism. So he was giving me the authority to act, to do my work, because the Catholic Church did not want to get involved in this whole thing down in Juarez. We only got them involved to come over and bless the land and bless the homes after we had cleared them all completely. And then the priest showed up and he blessed everything. But they would not get involved in it. They didn't want to be part of it, you know. You'd be amazed at how many priests, honestly, are truly afraid of those situations. They don't want anything to do with them.
So back to the sort of like where you started with that is these, which was sort of the second part of my question. You were answering it already. Is the increase in exorcisms actually, legitimate possessions, or is it more people being, kind of more open to it, or people sort of crying wolf, that type of thing? And it sounds like it was an actual. It's actually increasing.
It is, yeah, it is, because people are believing in it. See, the more that they're watching all these shows, but it's not just the TV shows and the movies, and good grief, it's not just Harry Potter. Okay, oh, I'm so tired of hearing that. It's the fact that people feel they basically feel powerless. What's been going on in the globe in the last 20, 30 years, whatever, is that people have become less and less powerful in their own right to make their own decisions and to choose their own lives and to choose what they really want to do for themselves and their future and all of that thing. So much has been taken over. So many of these decisions have been taken over by government, no matter what country you're in. And there's so many other threats out there in the world that people are afraid. You've got some people that are, talking about, oh, it's the end days. Well, I've been hearing that now ever since I was born.
Mm-hmm.
It's the end days, and it's the end. And I keep telling people, what are you going to do if it's not the end days? What if somebody doesn't come from the clouds and pick you up and take you out of here? You've got to be ready to handle yourself and your situation and take care of your family or the people who love you. You've got to be able to live. So you can't just keep thinking that you're going to just vanish into thin air any minute. You have to still do your thing about living. And, I've literally talked to people that gave everything away. And, I was called in on one sect that was, wanting to just throw it all to the wind. And they were going to do like these guys in San Diego and kill themselves. And we managed to talk it out. But the whole thing is the fact that as people lose power, just like in the Dark Ages, the more that they lose power, they feel powerless, the more they're going to look for a power source. And
consciously or subconsciously?
Both.
Yeah.
And as and the thing about it is with God is that a lot of people just don't realize how He works. People get impatient when you're afraid. You're impatient. You want an answer right now. You want some course of action right now. And when they don't get that, they think God isn't listening to them. They think He's not there for them, that He's not caring about them. Well, I'm here to tell you, I wouldn't be on your show right now, except for one thing. Somebody out there has needed what I've got to say. God's answering that prayer. See, I don't go anywhere that I don't realize inside of myself that me coming there is answering that person's prayer. They prayed for help. God said, will you go? I said, yes, and I went. If I couldn't go, he went to somebody else. Maybe he went to Ralph Sarchi. Maybe he went to John Zaffis. Maybe he went to the other thousands of guys out there that put their own stuff aside and walk for God all the time, but nobody even knows who they are. Most of us are very private individuals, those of us that really do actually work for God. So the thing is that God's got a whole army out there that He uses that go out and they help people that have been praying, that have been crying out. And a lot of people don't realize that God sends a person. He doesn't wet the lamb's coat, okay? He doesn't dump a glass of water on your head or set off fireworks in your living room. The devil does that. Oh, yes, he does. But God doesn't, right? So what happens is that people start looking for a power source to be able to handle the problem. And they'll start going into books that are into some kind of witchcraft or some kind of power manipulation of some kind of energy manipulation of some kind.
Or Ouija boards and all that too.
Yeah, or they'll go to the person who says, well, hey, I'll give you 10 candles for $100 a candle. You burn each one of these candles and your situation will be handled or whatever. And then, of course, they come back and they say, well, it's not completely done. Well, no, it's not completely done because, well, I cracked another egg and you're going to have to pay another $1,000 and get something else here. And it never stops, see. The thing is that when you're looking for power, anytime you're looking for power, there's a whole world out there. There's a whole other universe out there full of entities that would pretend to be demons even. There's entities out there that are very powerful that have nothing to do with being a demon or being a devil. There's entities out there that are demons and whatnot. The thing is, if people are looking for power, they're looking for a particular type of entity. And that's any entity that can actually manipulate energy. And there's a host of them out there. And they can end up with any one of them hanging out in their house.
So are you talking... Sorry, continue.
I was just going to say, that's really what I do, is I sort entities.
Huh. So, okay, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this because, you know, I understand like if people are going through Ouija boards and all that, but if people are really searching for a higher purpose or their higher self or something, would you also include like people using like psychedelics or trying to have out of body experiences or lucid dreaming, like all those other sort of kind of new agey type of methods of getting out of your body or sort of entering some other dimension? Would you include those in that category of people searching for power?
Not really, Graham. No. You know what I think? I think people need to realize that the human person is going to be curious. We don't grow if we don't have curiosity. All right? There's a huge difference between, you know, reading a New Age book and looking at what somebody's got to say and, you know, or going to Stonehenge and seeing what kind of energy's out there. That's not inviting, you know, that's not what I'm really talking about.
Right.
That's looking for knowledge. They want to understand the energies of the world, just like I did back in the day. I didn't open up any doors and get demon-possessed because I was curious.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it all has to do with the intention. If you're looking for knowledge to give you understanding, and maybe knowledge is power in its own sense, but it's not power as in I want to wave a wand and make a donkey appear in your living room, all right? There's a huge difference between saying, if I want to plant some things and I want to bless them by waving a rowan stick over the top and saying, bless you flowers, please grow, and the new moon is rising or whatever. You know, I realize that in the Bible it says things like, you know, where the prophet gets really mad and he says, I'm so tired. He's repeating what God's telling me. He says, I'm so tired of your new moons and your sorcery and your magic and all this kind of stuff. Well, the reason God's saying that is because the truth is you really don't need it. But he just said, I'm just so tired of it. He didn't say you're all going to hell in a handbasket. Look, the thing is that there's such a thing as just simple human curiosity. So a little kid plays with a Ouija board. If he's not looking for some entity to come there and do a magic show in his living room, he's not really opening doors and windows and stuff like that. You see, when children are involved most of the time, unless it's a child, let's say the child is bullied, and he wants power, he wants to get out from underneath this bullying situation or whatever. No, yeah, he would love to have a superhero show up and just kick the crap out of these guys that are, you know, being bad to him or whatever, or maybe even home abuse or something like that horrible is going on. You know, you can't blame this child. See, most of the cases I come in on where somebody inadvertently, it's usually somebody inadvertently opening a door, not because they initially intended to, but because one night they got really mad and they had this book on deep, deep magic, and they just got so mad, so sick, so tired, so fed up, so desperate, so anxious, whatever, that they just literally, they were like two steps. It was like one step was either going to be suicide, and the other step was going to be grab this magic book and, you know, summon up a demon to get rid of this mess. Because they didn't think God was going to handle it for them. And so they went to this demon book, and sure enough, one appeared and started to hang out and destroy whatever life they had left before it was even worse than the situation they originally brought to the table. It's more damaging when adults go into something like this, because adults are capable of channeling a lot of focus and intention and concentration and power into their own thinking. And they're also able to put a lot of power into their words. And those words can kill, they can hurt, they can just start eating away at other people. You know, when you say really mean things, it literally is a wound. It can wound the energy sphere of the other person, the aura of the other person. Everybody has their own aura. And we all have we're electromagnetic beings. How can we not have an electromagnetic field, right? So when you throw really mean things at somebody, it hurts them. It does. It wounds them. Not just emotionally, not just mentally or whatever. It can literally, physically attack them. You know, sometimes you get in a fight with somebody. Nobody touched anybody. Nobody slapped anybody or anything. But you come away and your stomach hurts.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, maybe your stomach is kind of your weakness in your body. It's the one place that you're kind of
That's
weak.
where it manifests, yeah.
Yeah. And the other person, they might get an earache or they might get a pain in their back or something, right? Because maybe that's their weakest point. See, in studying Castaneda, I learned a lot about energy. I also felt after I got to the Eagle's Gift that Castaneda had really kind of gone off track and lost himself and believing his basically his own philosophy. But for the most part, what I really learned about reading Castaneda was how the energy works around the body. It taught me a lot of things, and I kind of took it as a stepping stone. I didn't actually want to read the book. Well, I can't say that. I was kind of interested, but I ended up reading every single one. Okay, For me, that's pretty odd. All right, I read every word of every single one. And I kept asking God, why are you having me read this? I have no interest in sorcery or any of this type of thing. And, I just kept feeling like one day I was going to need it. Well, when I ended up down in Juarez, I needed every single thing I'd ever read or ever learned. And not just what he had taught me, but what I had then learned more from other Native Americans and Mexican, the Tarahumaras, and this type of thing. All of these other Indian tribes that I had worked with. So it took every single thing I'd ever learned to deal with that situation. The thing is that you can pursue knowledge on many different levels, and you're not going to get occluded with demons and hammered on by this and that and the other thing. You might, and you might not. Be careful. Watch what you're doing.
So that kind of gets into
intention.
That kind of gets into the level of possession that you have on your website. So you talk about the 3 stages of possession, and before we run out of time, I want to ask you a couple specific questions about this. So
sure,
you've got infestation here, oppression, and possession, and there's a sort of a checklist below each one, and you're kind of throwing all this stuff in together and saying like this seems like a stage of the first stage of infestation or whatever. But let's say somebody's having getting into this incubus and succubus thing again. So like let's say somebody's having incubus and succubus encounters. It's been going on for decades, yet they don't have, and that's actually, I would consider that being on your list under infestation, under sex while falling asleep or whatever, right? Being attacked sexually while sleeping. So, but they don't have a lot of the other things on the list happening.
Exactly.
Like, what would you suggest?
Well, for one thing, I'll say anybody reading those lists, you're talking about you'd have to have a very strong 3,
right,
and 2 or 3 or 4 a week to the if you'd have to have like 6 or 7 of those things, 3 or 4 of them weak, and 2 or 3 very strong,
right,
to even qualify there. The incubus succubus dreams and this type of thing can often be influenced. They can often be something not demonic at all, but basically very sexual entities that have, they do literally pull people's life force. And this is exactly what was happening with this woman in the hotel. And a lot of times there's people that I get emails from who are attacked to the point where it's actually almost 6 to 1, half dozen the other, where they literally at this point in time should really check themselves into a therapy center, and at the same time perhaps learn how to strengthen and protect themselves. If you're having those types of dreams, there's one very easy way to stop this whole thing. Basically, get some salt. Get some exorcised oil, water, and salt. And spray your room down, put salt under your bed, put a blessed holy card or something under your bed, get a rosary that's blessed, hang it on the back of your bed, put salt under your mattress, put it under your mattress pad if you want, wherever you want to put it. But, just, I'll tell you what, salt the corners down of your room, hit your closets, hit your door, around your door and that. And the one blessing in there's blessings and prayers. There's a link on there. It says blessings and prayers. And there's what they call the Epiphany blessing. The Epiphany blessing started in Ireland. You would basically, for 2015, you would write 20, then the sign of the cross, then C, sign of the cross, then B, sign of the cross, then M, then sign of the cross, then 15. The CBM are the first initials of each of the three wise men. They also mean a blessing, Christus Mansus, Benedictus, right? So you write that over the top of your door or write it on your door. You can use a washable crayon or washable marker because a lot of today's doors and stuff, writing in chalk just isn't going to get it, Or you can even write it in pencil on a piece of paper and tape it to your door. But it stops literally all activity within 20 feet. So you can literally write that on every single door in your house, inside and out, closet doors, everything. It's going to stop all activity within 20 feet. And then get some salt and put it around the deals. I have salt. I have exorcised salt. Try getting it from your local priest. Good luck with that, guys, because unless you know him and unless he's willing to do it, most of them don't even have the prayers handy. They usually refer you to the diocese exorcist for that, and he usually also has a huge parish of his own and stuff. It's very difficult to get anymore. It really is. But I do have it. I give it away for free, but I do require one thing. I require that you donate $10 because I will send it priority. It's $5.15 for shipping. At least it was last time I checked. I put it in containers, 2 glass vials full of oil, 2 glass vials full of salt. And believe me, like I said, 1 or 2 grains is all you need sometimes. And it's just to keep me being able to buy these things. But I also send things like, blessed rosaries. I send all this stuff for free. I buy it myself. Nobody pays for it but me. I buy it myself. I take it down. I get it blessed by the diocese exorcist here. I'm not selling the blessing. I'm just saying, guys, I need to keep buying. I need to keep stock on hand, and I can't do it by just simply giving it all away.
Yeah, exactly.
Can
people donate more then? I mean, obviously you welcome donations for people that want to help out, especially if it's helped them too, right? People can give back to you.
Well, yeah, and a lot of people, there's a lot of people that do that make up for the people that just simply don't have a dime. And there's been many times Tim and I have sent stuff out to people that, didn't have a hope of sending them a dollar. But for those of you that can send a dollar if you want to ask for some, please just do send, at least enough to cover postage. That's truly all I really ask. Because it's very, very important for me to keep the ministry going. I can't do it off my husband's paycheck. I'm retired now. All I get is Social Security. So God will always take care of it. He'll always make sure that the money comes in properly to take care of all this. But, it's kind of each person needs to God helps those who help themselves too. So you try to do what you can do to at least help out yourself. But I will freely send it to somebody. All you got to do is go up there in the contact form, put your name, your address. Nobody's going to see it. I don't keep them. Nothing. If you want me to call you, I don't call anybody right now. I'm on chemotherapy right now. All right. I don't have the physical strength to do that right now. In maybe 3-4 months or something, I will have, but right now I really can't. You're just going to need to read the website and try to get as much information off of there as you can right now. But that's really that's it. I'll send it to you. If you need the salt, I'll send it to you.
No, that's good to know. I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Put it around your house. Does your mom have a problem? Put it around, go. a little tiny bit of salt in a spray bottle of water, and you can spray that whole house down, and you'll still have 4/5 or almost completely 5/5 of that bottle left. I mean, a few grains of salt. You can take 4 little grains of salt, put it into a gallon of water, and that water is all now exorcised, and it all has that power of God with it. And everywhere you spray it, it carries that exorcism blessing. You spray it above the floorboard. That way it doesn't disappear. Nobody scrubs it out of the carpet. You don't soak it down. Just one little spray will do it. Toom, toom, toom.
Should you tell somebody that you're going to do that? Is it important that they know?
You sneak exercising somebody?
Stealth.
Well,
You're a ninja exorcist?
Yes, I have ninja exercised. Okay, I have, yes, because it was a relative, and I loved them, and I just got tired of them being traumatized, and they were going through a very difficult period of their life, and you couldn't even talk to them. Okay, so.
That's kind of what I was getting at. Exactly. No, that's what I was getting at.
Your back.
Yeah.
So now you're going to exercise people and Reiki them when they don't know.
Yeah, well, you know.
So what? So did that help? Did it change?
Yes, it did. Because see, here's the thing: when you bless somebody, even if you can't control them enough to be able to put the sign of the cross on them and everything, you can spray them down with the salt water. I spray myself down sometimes before I even walk into a place to make sure.
So the ocean must be good then.
Well, no,
it's not exercise though.
Naturally, but it's.
Couldn't we just exercise the whole thing? And then everyone would be good to go.
It'll leave the exorcism blessing behind. Here's the whole point. I can't do anything to anybody against their will, neither can you or anybody else. The point is this: if you can go through that house and spray it down, what you do is you will get a pause of activity. It'll stop for a short time. And in that time, that person, maybe for the first time in months, even maybe a couple of years, they can think clearly. They can think clearly, they can see clearly, they can hear clearly. They can hear what you are saying to them. And you wouldn't believe how it stops everything. It's like one minute you got all this psychic commotion going on, and the next second everything is totally quiet and peaceful. And they're like, wow, what just happened? It's so wonderful. I feel so good. And that's when you kind of fess up and say, well, I just sprayed your house down because I just wanted to be able to talk to you and you couldn't hear what I was saying.
Interesting.
So, yeah, but here's the thing. If they reject it, it'll all just come right back. Even though you sprayed the house down, they have the right to choose what goes on in their house.
Yeah.
So if they reject what you did, it'll all just come right back. And at that point in time, honestly, I would tell you to hit the door and keep going.
Well, can some of it could be from negative thought patterns, right? Or traumatic kind of PTSD
Absolutely.
Type behavior that they're not even conscious of.
Absolutely. And not only that, brain injuries too,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
You know, brain injuries, sometimes taking the wrong medication, sometimes they'll have a blood chemical reaction or something. Yeah, lots of different things can cause these behavioral changes, and it has nothing to do with being, possessed. But once you can calm everything down, a lot of times the people around them can see that, oh, we thought Jack was possessed, guess not. Okay, all right, what do we do now? Oh, hello, let's try take him to a doctor, okay? So, yeah, it calms the situation. Everybody sitting in there can see, can hear, can think.
So Sonia, when I was reading this book called The Right there, and I was hearing about all these actual encounters and his Gary's witnessing the exorcisms take place, and of course, doing this podcast and everything, you always have people, claiming for proof, or there's this whole community out there that's kind of into the paranormal and into everything, but they want science and they want proof and they want evidence. And you guys don't seem to, and I don't mean you guys, but you and let's say Gary in the book, like they don't seem concerned with having to prove this to anybody, right? So is that kind of, you know, the way you go? Because I know you're pretty strict with videos and photos because you don't want yourself plastered all over the internet. So that's totally understandable. And I understand, and I'm not saying like, you know, where's the proof? Because to me, I know, I kind of feel for you. Like at some point, it doesn't really matter, right? You guys know what's going on. You know what happens. You know it's a legitimate phenomena. So videos and photos aren't necessarily going to do it either because, you know, the skeptics out there could just, I mean, they can pretty much debunk anything they want if they if they're so inclined.
Well, see, here's the thing. You know, God doesn't really want a publicity department. A lot of people seem to think he does, and they seem to take it upon themselves to become his publicity manager or agent or whatever. But, you know, God's perfectly capable and more likely to simply just do what needs to be done when it needs to be done. And, you know, like I said before when I first came on the show, one of the things about most of us is the fact that it's not about us. You know, yeah, we might be there. Yeah, we might be part of what's going on and all that kind of stuff. But it has truly nothing to do with us. It is really the power of Christ. If it wasn't for the power of Christ, we wouldn't even be there. I mean, if the situation is judged to be a situation where an actual exorcism is necessary, then it's really God showing us that, proving that to us, not us proving it to God. We get what evidence we can and stuff like that just so that we can show the church we did our due diligence. But as far as all of the rest of it is concerned, this is really God. You know, for example, the scene where in Deliver Us from Evil, where Ralph Sarchi and the priest are at the end there and they're doing this exorcism. It's, you know, they would both look you right in the eye right now and say, this isn't about me. This is about God. Yes, I was there. Yes, I'm a servant. Yes, I'll do what God asks me to do. I may not like it. It may scare me half to death, but I'm going to do it because I want to do what God needs. God doesn't force any of us to do anything. So the whole point is the privacy of the people involved are what is important. My privacy, who cares? I don't care. Father Gary doesn't care. You know, the other exorcists I work with don't care. It's not about us. It's not about us hiding our faces from man or keeping our privacy. Mm-hmm. We're private people simply because God's private. He has people have a relationship with God, each person an individual type of relationship. No matter what church you go to, it's always personal. And, you know, unless that person feels like going public with their story and their situation or whatever, or if the church thinks it would be a great learning tool or something like that. And that's really how Gary's book got written, was the fact that it was a great learning tool to show other people. Father Amorth had written his books first. The stories of an exorcist, you know, the tales of an exorcist.
Okay.
And Father Amorth is the chief exorcist in Rome. And so he wanted people to understand what was really going on. He didn't write a scary book. He wrote an incredibly great book. It's really enjoyable to read, actually. It's not creepy or crawly or anything. But boy, does he give you some insight into, you know, and this is, he'll tell you, you want the crap out of your house, salt the corners, you know, take exercise salt and put it in the corners in water. This is something any layman can do. He knows that, you know, this is, all laymen can do this, all believers. You know, it says in the Bible, if you believe in my name, you can cast out demons, you can heal people and all that. You know, a lot of us, you know, don't go out trying to heal people. You know, we doubt that, you know, ourselves. We doubt our own relationship with God, you know, and then there's people that go out there and they're fakes anyway.
Yeah, you made a phrase. You had a phrase for that. Humility over something else with an H. I'm trying to remember what it was. Thought I read it on your website there, but it was interesting. Yeah, exactly. Humility over hubris, or whatever. Yeah, that's. I like that. That's good.
Well, mercy. God. God is His mercy triumphs over justice. If it didn't, we'd all still be going to hell. So, I mean, that's the whole point. That's why I'm saying, no, we don't look for publicity. We don't run out there trying to write the next latest and greatest book. I do want to write a book about Juarez.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Oh, it's going to be about that Juarez thing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I've already got 44,000 words written on that book. I just need to refine it more. I've never written a book before. Okay, guys, so needless to say.
Well, you've almost got a book's worth of stuff on your website, so you're probably closer than you think.
Well, the thing is that I just wanted, I don't know how long I'm going to live. None of us do, right? And I just wanted to put out there in the most clear way possible, just let people understand that it's not, you don't have to be scared out of your skin all the time. You don't have to, fall on your knees wailing and screaming if you see your kid walk out of his bedroom with a Ouija board under his arm. It's all about his intention. Maybe he just needs a little more, just realize he probably wouldn't be looking for so many answers if you weren't working with, if you want your kid to get the answers he really needs, work with him. Say, hey, what are you interested in this? Why are you interested? And don't gaff him off and insult him and hurt his feelings. Say, okay, well, look, let's research these things together, but let's do it in a way that's a little bit more controlled and in a way that I think is a little safer.
Yeah.
And then start working with the kids or even yourself as an adult. Just think to yourself about it. Just say, hey, am I really going about this in the right way? Maybe I can do this in a way and cover my own ass at the same time, okay? Because you just need to protect yourself. Go over to a Catholic church. Take some things to be blessed. Go to the rectory. You don't have to go to Mass in this. Go to the rectory, leave them in a case or bag, or put them in a Ziploc bag so the priest can see what he's blessing, and just tell him, I would really like to have these things blessed. I would just feel safer and better. He's not going to ask you, are you Catholic or are you not? He's going to say, okay, just say, I would feel really good if these were blessed. Would you please bless them for me? Don't be afraid to leave a small donation for the church. Do not make it out in the priest's name. He will feel absolutely insulted. Make it out to the church if you're going to donate. And then go on about your business. But, hang some blessed medals in your room. Wear a rosary around you. I'll tell you right now, I would not be caught dead out there doing what I do without my rosary around my neck. And I'm not kidding, like a necklace. I wear it like a necklace. It protects me all the time.
Well, I like that advice, and it's not dogmatic and part of you have to become a full-blown Catholic and that type of thing. So I appreciate your openness with all that. Yeah. So it's probably a pretty good spot to wrap it up on. Is there anything else you want to mention to our listeners?
How much time we have? Just a minute or two?
Yeah, a few minutes.
Okay. I just want to say one thing, all right? About Easter. A lot of people look at the horrible beating and everything that Christ took, and they think that suffering thing. They focus too much on that. That when Christ says he didn't want to drink the cup, or he was concerned about would he have the kind of the guts to do it. It was that moment where he had to consign his spirit to the Father. Where for that moment, the Holy Spirit, for the first time ever, left the body, the physical body of Christ, and he was all by himself. And that's why he said, "My God, why have you forsaken me?" that's where the grief of God actually entered in, and that whole temple thing tore and everything else. But that was the cup all along. Jesus knew the beating and all that. He could handle that. But it was that moment when actually the spirit was going to be gone. That's what terrified him the most. And that's what I think is so incredibly beautiful about his sacrifice. Because for that moment in time, you know, he had been Christ since the beginning. And then for that one moment, he had to leave his body hanging there without that spirit. So to me, when you see that, you see the power it took for him to do that. You can see why there's so much power in the name of Christ when you get out here and you're handling these things. Know that that power that I'm talking about right now, when you go out there with the intention of serving God and you want to back something off, and you say, in the name of Christ, believe me when I tell you it's going to back off. It will back off. You just have to realize that moment. Think about that moment, because the power of it will strengthen you to the point where when you walk in that door, nothing will deter you. Nothing will stop you. And you'll just be able to do what God needs you to do at that moment.
Well, that's
so
good.
That's what I would say.
Yeah, that's good timing with Easter coming up this weekend. So.
Yeah.
This weekend?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
How time flies.
Yeah, I know.
Wasn't
it's
it
crazy.
Christmas
Spring.
2 weeks ago? I don't.
It was.
I remember getting presents.
And ever since we started this podcast, time is completely different. I try and find an email thinking it was like 2 weeks ago, and it's been like 3 months. It's brutal.
Well, I really, really appreciate both of you for inviting me to speak. I hope that the listeners got some good out of it, and I hope they found it different and enlightening. And they just shouldn't be so hard on themselves. So you're a little curious. It doesn't mean you've invited the devil into your house. You know, there's a huge difference between that kind of intention and just reading a book or waving a wand over some flowers. Come on.
Yeah.
You know,
No, thanks for that.
Let's lighten up. Yeah, let's lighten up on each other a little bit here and realize that God isn't stupid. Okay? He knows the difference between what you're doing and what you're not doing. You know, so, you know, you don't have to be afraid of God. Faith is easily explained in one word: trust.
Yeah.
You trust him, you've got faith. If somebody says, well, I don't know what faith is, don't worry about it. You know what trust is? Yeah. Well, there you go.
Well said. Well, thanks for coming on. We really appreciate it too. It was very interesting. And make sure you keep in touch if you do get that book out here, and send us over a copy.
Well, I should be done. Yeah, I should be done within the next month or so, maybe month to 6 weeks. And I'll just be putting it out on Kindle and stuff, all the ebook channels that are out there, and because that way I can kind of donate the money from the sales of it to, you know, different charities and causes that I, you know, care about, and there's just a lot of different things that I do that I really love and care about. So, yeah, I want to get it out there because it's an incredible story. You know, I'm not writing it out there to say, oh, look at me, I'm so cool.
Mm-hmm.
I was scared to death, guys, every single minute of the time I was out there. And the next year, too, there's a sequel to that book. It's an incredibly beautiful story. It's just got everything. You know, murder and mayhem and intrigue and magic and you name it, it's in that story. And both books are just phenomenal. And it's got the Native American side of it. It's got the Castaneda side of it. And it's real. All of it's real. These people are still alive, okay? The people that were there, my team, these guys, they're all still here. They're all still alive. And I want to write it now so that if somebody has questions and says, oh, that's horse hockey, you're going to hear about 14 voices going, oh, no, it ain't. You know, it's the truth, okay? Yeah, because it's a phenomenal thing about God and man and the earth and all of the balance and harmony and everything in between.
That sounds great. Yeah, we're looking forward to it. All right, Sonia.
People would enjoy it.
Good. Well, thanks for coming on.
Well, thank you so much, Graham, and thanks for, just thanks for everything. And Aaron, appreciate everything.
No problem. Happy Easter.
Thank you. Happy Easter to you. Hope you get lots of chocolate marshmallow eggs.
All right. Well, we'll talk to you soon. We'll send you a copy of the episode, and we'll link to all that stuff in the show notes.
Great.
Okay. Thanks. Thanks, Sonia.
You bet. You take care, guys.
Okay. Bye-bye.
God bless. Bye-bye.
Welcome back to the Grimerica Show. That was our chat with Sonia Brosz from getridoftheghosts.org.
What'd you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it was a little more a place based, if you know what I mean, like exorcism of ghosts in places and stuff like that. I was trying to get a little bit more into the people thing and not the demonic possession kind of stuff, but. It's I don't know, man. I'm interested in it. I really think there's something there after reading about it and listening to her, and it makes me question other things, like if using Jesus's name or some other sort of dogmatic religious prayer helps. What's going on there?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. That's where I start to have problems with it. Is it did get a little religious for me, especially near the end. But I don't know if that's maybe because I mean the books are probably based on something that we're all talking about anyway, right? It's just it's been interpreted in different ways, or
Yeah.
Like
I wonder if it's about, for example, the prayer.
I think it's more.
Is it about
I
the
think,
intention or the
I think it's
name
more
of it,
about
right?
the intention and the emotion attached to it. I really think emotion plays a really big role.
Yeah.
And belief.
Yeah.
Right? Whatever you use to get there, I guess, whether it's belief in yourself, belief that it's possible, belief in a God, belief in Jesus, you need to actually, I think belief is a big part of being able to do things like that, maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. And you
got to placebo yourself.
Yeah. And then there's other things that'll help, like exercise olive oil and holy water and the salt. I'm gonna get to her website there and order some of that for sure, and maybe send her a little donation. It's cool that they don't really charge for that stuff.
Salt.
Yeah.
And you can exercise.
Exactly.
You can exercise while you're exercising.
Well, we want to thank Sonia for coming on. And we'll link to all that in the show notes. And we've got lots of episodes coming up. We've got, at least one a week.
Next episode out will be Toby Rogers.
Really?
Yeah.
Feels like
we're back where we should be, man.
Okay.
We're fucking a month behind.
Yeah.
We still owe James an apology, really.
Yeah.
So now we're back to where we should be. Ganja Godfather. I forget his name.
Toby Rogers.
No, not Toby.
Oh, the ganja guy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll hear it in the
It's
interview.
an Italian name. It's an Italian mobster name.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, that was a fun chat. Toby's great.
Yeah.
And then
we got a roundtable coming up with Alex Zakaris and
Connor Habib.
Yeah. And we've got Niels Hickman coming up after that. And I'm going to be trying to get Gordon Freeman in the studio to talk about the Hidden Stonehenge. I'm almost just partway through his book right now.
You're going to bring that guy in this place.
You betcha.
He's going to fucking run right out of here.
Man. No, he'll be okay.
Think so?
Yeah. He's visited like ancient stone circles in the middle of the night. Huh? Yeah. In air quotes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I lose the freedom. I lose freedom in my own studio.
No, you can just tell him.
I'm just gonna be doing some stuff.
Yeah.
You just gotta deal with it.
Yeah. Poser.
Take off, eh? I think that's about it. Support the show, of course. Grimerica.ca/support. We always appreciate that. Helps us keep upgrading and paying our bills. Sign up for the newsletter, grimerica.ca/news. If you already signed up, sign up your friends. Maybe we could make the mission for the week to sign up 3 people for the newsletter.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think the newsletter is only at like maybe less than 10% of listeners.
Yeah.
So we could drum up some newsletter. Then you get updates of
backstage and
of when the live feeds are and stuff like that. New blogs. What else? Yeah, so sign people up for the newsletter. There's something else too. Oh yeah, well you already spoke about reviews. Review the show where you can. That's another thing where reviews are less than 1%. I think less than 1% of people.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Have reviewed. So that's something you can do right now, and it doesn't cost you a thing.
Yeah. All right.
Spamgram.
Thanks, buddy.
See you next week.
Hey, Ray, do you believe in God?
Never met him.
Yeah, well, I do. And I love Jesus' style, you know.
This roof